Bonjour, bienvenue, merci de nous rejoindre en salle de presse pour notre point de presse quotidien en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 14 juillet. Nous avons quelques annonces, en fait plusieurs annonces à vous faire. Je commence comme chaque mardi avec l'agenda du collège. Tout d'abord, le collège adoptera une communication visant à garantir que l'UE soit préparée en matière sanitaire en cas de résurgence du coronavirus. Cette communication s'appuiera sur les principaux enseignements tirés de la période de crise. Le vice-président Margaritis Schinas et la commissaire Stella Kyriakides se rendront demain matin en salle de presse pour vous présenter cette communication. Nous vous communiquerons l'heure exacte ultérieurement. Ensuite, le collège adoptera un paquet sur la lutte contre l'évasion fiscale. C'est une contribution importante au programme fiscal que la Commission souhaite mettre en œuvre pour les années à venir, en particulier pour soutenir les transitions numériques et vertes. Le vice-président exécutif Valdis Dombrovskis et le commissaire Paolo Gentiloni viendront en salle de presse après la réunion du collège pour vous présenter ce paquet plus en détail. Nous aurons aussi un briefing technique off the record sur le sujet cet après-midi à 16h15 pour les journalistes accrédités. Je passe maintenant la parole à Ariana pour deux annonces, l'une sur une recommandation de la Commission aux États membres de restreindre les aides d'État aux entreprises ayant un lien avec les paradis fiscaux et l'autre sur un cas de concurrence impliquant le groupe pharmaceutique Aspen et les traitements contre le cancer. Ariana.
Thank you very much, Eric, and good morning, everyone. Indeed, today the Commission has recommended that Member States do not grant financial support to companies with links to countries that are on the EU's list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions. The coronavirus outbreak has required unprecedented efforts at both national and EU level to support Member States' economy and facilitate their recovery. This includes substantial financial support to provide liquidity and capital for companies, to save jobs, safeguard supply chains, and facilitate research and development. It is in this context that several member states have expressed their willingness to adopt rules restricting access to such support by companies with links to tax havens or convicted of financial crimes, including, among others, financial fraud, corruption, non-payment of tax and social security obligations. Member states have requested guidance from the Commission on how best to address this concern. Today's recommendation provides this guidance to Member states on how to prevent public support from being granted to companies with links to countries that are on the EU's list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions, as well as from being used in tax fraud, evasion, avoidance of money laundering schemes, or terrorist financing. So we have been trying to find a way to protect taxpayers' money through this recommendation. And another way is indeed by enforcing antitrust rules. As mentioned by Eric, today the European Commission invites comments from all interested parties on commitments offered by Aspen to address the Commission's concerns over excessive pricing for 6 critical off-patent medicines, mainly used in the treatment of leukemia and other hematological cancers in numerous national markets. Aspen proposes to reduce its prices in Europe for these medicines by 73% on average. In addition, Aspen proposes to ensure the continued supply of these off-patent medicines for a significant period. We now reach out to stakeholders to hear their views on whether the commitments adequately address our concerns. All interested parties can submit their opinions on Aspen's proposed commitments within 2 months from the publication in the official journal.
Thank you, Ariana. I now pass the floor to Dan for an announcement on best practices for better access to finance for consumers and businesses in the context of the pandemic. Dan.
Yes, thanks very much, Eric, for that. Indeed, the Commission has today welcomed a list of best practices that have been agreed between the financial sector and consumer and business organisations to help further mitigate the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. It sets out in concrete terms how market participants can support citizens and businesses throughout the crisis. Today's best practices cover issues including, for example, payment moratoria, safer cashless payments, and ensuring that loans that are aimed at mitigating the impact of coronavirus are provided swiftly. Today's list follows 2 roundtable meetings that have been facilitated by the European Commission with consumer and business representatives, European banks, other lenders, and the insurance sector. These discussions, as you may know, are part of a wider effort by the Commission to increase lending to the real economy, including, for example, the banking package that we published back in April. The Commission will facilitate a further roundtable discussion in September to take stock of progress and will continue to dialogue with stakeholders to support lending during the recovery. All participants are encouraged to follow these best practices. A press release and, of course, the best practices themselves are available online.
Thank you, Dan. I now pass the floor to Sonia for an announcement on the opening of a public consultation on postal services.
Good afternoon. The Commission opened a public consultation on the impact of the EU Postal Services Directive, which ensures that everyone in the EU receives minimum service at a reasonable price and that postal service operators can provide their services abroad. The recent coronavirus crisis has proved even more the importance of the postal sector, during which it helped to provide essential services and goods to countless citizens and businesses across the European Union. The consultation aims to better understand the needs of the postal sector, especially in the light of the increasingly digital world and the growing e-commerce economy. Everyone is welcome to contribute to the public consultation, including citizens and businesses that use postal services, postal operators, social partners, and public authorities. The public consultation questionnaire is available online in all EU languages until the 9th of November. On the basis of the feedback received and the further research, the Commission aims to adopt an evaluation of the Postal Services Directive in 2021. You can find more information on the public consultation in our daily news. Thank you.
Merci Sonia. Avant de passer à vos questions, notez qu'une vidéoconférence informelle des ministres européens de l'environnement et du climat est en cours. Le commissaire Virginijus Sinkevičius participera à la conférence de presse qui suivra la réunion aux alentours de 14 h. Voilà, nous en avons fini avec les annonces. Nous pouvons maintenant passer à vos questions. Et je passe la parole à Jack Parrock. Jack, you need to press speak.
Okay, sorry. Thanks. Jack Parrock here from Euronews. I have a question about Libya. I know obviously the foreign affairs ministers talked about Turkey and Libya yesterday, but we've seen that the forces in the east of Libya have asked for the support of Egypt in pressing back against what Turkey's been doing, and I wondered if there's just any response, any comment on that call from the Eastern forces.
Thank you. Nabila. Attention.
Comment on fait pour baisser là?
High technology.
Yes. Hi, Jack.
Thank you for.
Can I speak now?
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Yes, indeed, this was yesterday the HRVP. As you know, there was a Foreign Affairs Council, and there was a point on Libya. And
I refer you to basically what the HRVP has said yesterday, which is the situation remains extremely bad, and we continue to see the blatant violations of the arms embargo. And we intend to reinforce the sanctions regime to contribute to a better implementation of the UN Security Council resolutions, which would increase the effectiveness of our operation IRINI. But also the HRVP was very clear yesterday that for him the only process and the only solution is a political solution, as it is a political solution within the context of the Berlin process.
Thank you. Since Nabila is on the podium, let us continue with any other foreign affairs related questions that there may be. I do not see any, so thank you very much, Nabila. Let's move to Thomas, who has a question for Ariane, I believe. Thomas, tu as la parole. Nous ne t'entendons pas. Il faut que tu t'assures que ton microphone est bien branché sur la bonne source et que tu aies appuyé sur le bouton Speak.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you hear me?
Loud
Do
and
you
clear.
hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Great, sorry. Ariana, I don't understand you talking about a recommendation, but if you don't want public aid, state aid to go to companies that are based in these non-cooperative jurisdictions, can't you simply veto them? Thank you very much.
I'm not quite sure. Thomas, when you say veto them, can you be more specific?
I mean, the state aid to companies must be authorized by the European Commission. So do you have the legal base to simply, instead of just issuing a recommendation to the member states, just say, no, we don't approve this?
You mean from a state aid perspective. So first of all, allow me to clarify that this recommendation concerns financial support, which does include state aid, but is not limited to state aid, because we believe that tax avoidance is a general concern which needs to be addressed regardless of the type of financial support. For this reason, it's broader. For example, there are measures that go beyond the scope of state aid control, for example, generally applicable wage subsidies or suspension of corporate tax and VAT payments that could, for example, be considered financial support granted to a company with links to one of these jurisdictions. If we look at state aid specifically, the absence of links with these jurisdictions is not a condition to ensure compliance with treaty provisions on state aid. Therefore, we cannot include these conditionalities in our decisions or in any of our guidelines.
Okay, I think that answers the question. Are there any other questions for Ariana on competition-related files while she is on the podium? David, follow-up.
Oui, merci Eric. Je voulais juste demander qu'est-ce qui se passe si les États membres ne suivent pas la recommandation. Merci.
Ciao David. Bon, c'est une recommandation, donc la Commission est prête à discuter avec les États membres comment elle peut être implémentée. Ça vient d'une requête des États membres pour avoir des conseils sur comment faire, pour avoir des conditions horizontales qui pourront être appliquées à tous les États membres. Mais c'est une recommandation, donc et la valeur légale d'une recommandation. Je ne sais pas si Dan veut ajouter quelque chose, comme on est tous les deux sur ce projet.
Dan, you want to add something on this? En français.
Non, tout à fait, Ariana. Voilà, c'est une recommandation parce que, comme Ariana vient de dire, les États membres ont demandé pour information sur ce sujet, et aussi ça permet que les États membres mettent en place leur système de manière coordonnée entre les États membres.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Ariana sur les questions de concurrence? Non, je ne vois personne. Pas de questions. Merci Ariana. Donc nous pouvons passer à d'autres sujets. Laissez-moi d'abord répondre à Ekrem qui demande si Peter est là aujourd'hui. Non, Peter n'est pas ici. Il est remplacé par Nabila. Donc les questions sur le dialogue Kosovo-Serbie seraient prises par Nabila. Nous y reviendrons peut-être ultérieurement vu que nous avons déjà traité les questions affaires extérieures. Donc nous allons d'abord continuer sur d'autres sujets. Momchil, you have the floor. Momchil, are you following us?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Hello. Good afternoon. Well, yes, the United States supported the peaceful protests in Bulgaria. Would the European Commission do the same or something else? Take some with some opinion? I don't know.
I believe that we have commented, we have answered your question yesterday and indeed last week on these issues. But I will ask if Christian has something that he wants to add on the specific elements regarding rule of law.
I'm Momchil indeed. I think on the oh, this is low. Wait a second. Indeed, on the protest, I think we have already given our position. We've always been clear that protests, peaceful demonstrations, are a fundamental right in all democratic countries, and that we support the right to peaceful protest. So I'm not entirely sure what else you are expecting. I'm happy to clarify further questions if you have them.
Yes, Momchil, we are
No,
not,
it's all right. It's all right. I
Yeah.
just asked because the United States did something, so that was the reason. Thank you very much.
Well, as you know, we have our own positions in the European Union. We do not react necessarily to positions which are taken by others. We have clear positions when it comes to, in particular, the rule of law. We have already come back on this issue time and time again, including on the situation in Bulgaria. So we have nothing to add at this stage. Thank you. Any other questions for Christian whilst he is on the podium? I see two hands raised. Natalia. You need to change the source of your mic, I am told. Go ahead. Seems to be okay now. Press speak, however.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. I was saying that I'm not sure if the question is for Christian, but I can ask it and you decide.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see.
Okay, good. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the information that was revealed today about that the president of the Catalan parliament had its phone hacked by a government-grade spyware called Pegasus. I wanted to know if the European Commission is worried about ongoing domestic political espionage happening in Spain and, in fact, in any other EU state. And also, if you have detected any problem with the use of this spyware called Pegasus to spy politicians and activists in the EU. Thank you.
Christian.
Yes, we've seen the press reports, and as you said yourself, this is about the investigation or reports in the press on which we usually do not provide comments.
Natalia, I think it's pretty clear that the European Commission obviously, would not condone any political espionage anywhere. That's very clear. On the other hand, as Christian says, we do not comment simply on press reports, and it is for member states in the context of their judicial systems to look into these issues. Any other questions for Christian? Catherine, you have kept your hand raised, so I suppose it's for Christian. Go ahead. Hi.
It is. Hello, Eric. Yeah, my question is for Christian. Christian made a number of statements that he's what we're used to. We believe in fundamental rights, etc. We're hearing it again today about the peaceful protests in Bulgaria, but in actual fact, the European Commission has done nothing. And I just wanted, in relation to the Polish elections, where there was anti-Semitism, anti-LGBT statements from the main candidate, the winning candidate. I'd just like to remind you that at the beginning of the year, the President of the Commission said in her speech when they were commemorating Auschwitz that Europe will do whatever it takes to counter anti-Semitism. And then on discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation, gender identity, the Commission has said it will stand against discrimination, prejudice and hate. Well, okay, so tell me, what does whatever it takes actually mean? What does standing against discrimination actually mean? Because I don't see any action.
Christian.
Catherine, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to now. Is your question general question, or are you relating it to the Polish elections, as I understood? Can you clarify?
Sure. Well, it is linked to Montil's question, because it's a general failing of the European Commission to do anything, despite saying that you will do whatever it takes and that you will stand against these things, and then actually you do nothing. But it's particularly in relation to the Polish elections and the findings of the OSCE, where there was clear anti-Semitic statements, anti-gay statements, where gay people were told they were subhuman, they were not human, and yet there's nothing. So what exactly does whatever it takes and standing against something actually mean?
Okay, look, that's a very philosophical question. I think we have strong positions, indeed, on European values, on free and fair elections. We have also made our position very clear in the context of the Polish elections. On anti-LGBTI policies, also there we have a clear position. We have the first ever commissioner for equality, which is working very hard to address discrimination in any form, together with other members of the college, not least Vice President Jourova and Commissioner Reinders. But of course, you always have to take into account the specific context of these different issues. Also, when you look at anti-Semitism, the Commission, I think, has a very strong track record of what we have been doing. We have instated a coordinator by the Commission who is doing a lot of work in this context, also with stakeholders from Jewish representatives. We have worked on a common definition of anti-Semitism. There was a council declaration adopted last year, if I remember correctly, under the Austrian presidency, which was quite an important milestone. So I think if you look a bit more closely and beyond the headline, you will find a lot of very concrete action by the Commission on any of the topics that you have raised. At the same time, you will always have to understand that the Commission works in the context of its competences, and these competences differ a lot in different areas, and especially when it comes to national elections. This is, of course, a very specific context.
Thank you, Christian. I only see one other hand raised for the moment. No, Catherine, you have raised your hand again. Is it a follow-up?
Yes. Go ahead. Yes. But Christian, the thing is, I'm not actually asking a philosophical question. I'm asking, what are you doing? there are all these broad statements, the declarations, we've appointed people, we've involved stakeholders, but did you write a strongly worded letter condemning the anti-Semitic and homophobic comments that were made by the recently elected president? Did you, like, is there anything concrete that you can point to, a statement that you made directed at the people involved? Or are we just talking about these vague declarations and statements? And is that really what whatever it takes means?
Catherine, again, I think we need to look back in which context we are working here. The Commission works on the basis of the treaties and of EU legislation. And we never hesitate to take action, as you know, as we have in many cases, when we have legal ground to take action, to tackle discrimination, to work for the rule of law in the European Union, especially in the context of Poland. I think that is very, very clear and well known. And there are ongoing Article 7 proceedings, ongoing infringement proceedings, etc., etc. At the same time, you know that we do not comment on comments and that we work in the framework of the competencies that are given to us.
Thank you, Christian. Are there any other questions for Christian today? Athanasios.
Thanks very much. I will insist on this. I like philosophy very much, but we have to be very, very practical when we refer to these incidents. So it's not a matter of reports and reporting and something that we read in the press. The AJC of Central Europe, the Atlantic Jewish Council, brought to our attention that the public broadcaster of Poland included a statement in one of its headline broadcasts that the opposition candidate would comply with Jewish demands. So I cannot even start dissecting this thing right now, but if there are no arrests and no inquiries by the judiciary in Poland for this thing, then it is in your competence to go against the member state for not complying with the treaty as guardians of the treaty. Are you going to do that? Thank you.
I think, as I've repeated several times before, of course, media freedom and pluralism are fundamental values in any democracy. And independent journalism is vital and crucial to hold governments accountable and to monitor democratic processes. Again, the Commission supports media freedom and pluralism, and it does it within the scope of its competences through various initiatives. This includes, for instance, the Media Pluralism Monitor, which is upcoming later this month. But let me remind you also that it is the responsibility of member states to take action to protect media freedom and pluralism in line with the values on which the Union is founded and in compliance with EU law. So you have to keep national authorities in the picture, national courts. The Commission is not, or Europe is not a national state. And the Commission works on the basis of the competences conferred to it in the treaties. So it is very important that member states do their part, that member state authorities play their role. And on our level, what we do is that we are working to ensure, where we see systematic problems with the rule of law, that we address them. And this is what we have been consistently doing in those countries where we are seeing issues, and which we will consistently continue to do with the upcoming rule of law report, which you can expect for September, and which will also specifically look into media freedom issues.
Thank you. Okay, I do not see further questions. Yes, Athanasios, you have a follow-up? I think we have said what we can say on this, huh, Athanasios?
Yeah, I can imagine that. But, well, from a philosophical or from a legal standpoint, I cannot stand quiet when I hear media freedom being in the same sentence with a case that incites anti-Semitism in a country in Europe. So here we have a case. Clearly, the Polish authorities are not doing their job. The national authorities, as you mentioned, are not doing their job. What are you going to do from now on for this situation, for this thing?
No, Athanasios, I believe we have answered the questions that have been asked to us today. Christian has very clearly said that the first level of action is within the member state. There is a legal system in Poland, there are means of redress, and therefore it is not as if all the issues that may arise immediately come up to the European Union to be resolved. What the European Union does, as Christian has repeatedly now said, is look at a systemic basis whether the system in a country concerned allows such issues to be addressed. This is our role, and this is what Christian has now said. So this is where we stand, and at this stage, there is not much that we can add to that, taking into account, as Christian has said already, that we have been, in fact, looking at the situation in terms of the rule of law in Poland very consistently on many different issues. So I don't think that anybody can fault the Commission for taking the issue of rule of law in a country, and in particular in a country like Poland, seriously. This is our position today. Thank you. Are there other questions for us today? Lorenzo. Vas-y. Bonjour. On ne t'entend pas par contre. Il y a un problème de connexion visiblement. Vas-y.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, c'est bon maintenant.
Ah, ok. Ok. C'est une question qui concerne l'environnement, c'est sur la résistance aux antibiotiques. Il y a eu hier une émission en Italie qui était très intéressante, d'enquête concernant les élevages de poissons en Europe, hors d'Europe. Et apparemment, il y a une utilisation massive d'antibiotiques dans ces élevages de poissons. Et ma question est, je sais que la Commission a des normes très strictes concernant le contrôle des antibiotiques utilisés dans l'élevage, mais apparemment, il n'y en a pas pour ce qui concerne l'élevage de poissons. Est-ce que vous pouvez confirmer ça et si la Commission a des initiatives concernant cette problématique? Merci.
Alors, c'est une question qui peut être pour Viviane. D'ailleurs, je vois qu'elle s'est connectée, donc je lui passe la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Eric, et merci, Lorenzo, pour cette question. Effectivement, la question que tu as mentionnée là, concernant les antibiotiques dans le secteur de pêche, nous y travaillons. Et dans la stratégie de la ferme à l'assiette que la Commission a adoptée en mois de mai, nous prévoyons exactement l'objectif de réduire par moitié, par 50%, les ventes des antibiotiques qui sont là pour utilisation dans l'agriculture autant qu'aquaculture. Donc, c'est un problème dont on est bien en connaissance de ça et on y travaille. Merci.
Un problème dont nous sommes bien conscients. Merci, Viviane. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui? Je n'en vois pas, donc merci et à demain pour le compte-rendu du collège et la conférence de presse avant cela sur la communication préparation coronavirus. Merci.